Okay, picture this. You see a guy in a coffee shop. He's talking to a woman, trying to impress her. He's being super polite, he agrees with everything she says, he's throwing out compliments, and for about an hour he does everything he thinks is right, which turns out to be perfectly wrong. Today, we're diving into a source that says this isn't just one guy's bad luck. Nope. It's a faulty program running in the minds of most men, and we're going to unpack exactly what that program is and, more importantly, how to fix it.
And the source material we're looking at, well, it doesn't pull any punches. It basically says that once you get this one core programming error, the whole pattern of being overlooked or ghosted or stuck in the friend zone, it's all going to suddenly make perfect sense. It's not about you being a bad person, not at all. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of what actually creates attraction.
According to this material, a pretty staggering 98% of men are operating on this flawed mental program. I mean, just think about that. It suggests that the huge majority of guys are out there playing an emotional game with a rule book that is completely wrong, all while wondering why they keep losing.
So if you've ever felt that sting, you had what you thought was a great conversation only to get ghosted, or you've been the perfect gentleman and then watched her choose someone else, the source argues that's not just random chance. It's the totally predictable outcome of that faulty internal script.
All right, so what exactly is this bad programming we keep talking about? Let's drill down to the core concept our source says is the root of the entire problem.
They call it the good boy protocol. You know what this is. It's all the rules you learned as a kid. Be nice, respect your elders, happy wife, happy life. And look, these are all great principles for being a decent human being, for sure. But the source argues they are completely ineffective and honestly often work against you when it comes to creating that romantic spark.
The source uses this really powerful analogy to nail this point. Society, it says, trains men to be like a golden retriever. Totally safe, predictable, and always looking for a pat on the head. But what women are emotionally wired to respond to is the energy of the wolf, independent, self-sufficient, and a little unpredictable. And let's be super clear here, we're not talking about a big bad wolf, but one that just operates by its own rules.
Okay, so if the good boy protocol is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, the source calls it the attraction mindset, and it's all about building a completely different kind of dynamic.
And this brings us to a fascinating concept called polarity points. These are those tiny little moments in a conversation, maybe a small challenge, a disagreement, or a test, where you have a choice. The 98%, they rush to decrease the tension and make things comfortable. But the 2%, they understand that increasing that emotional tension is what actually builds attraction.
This really gets to a core rule from our source. Comfortable is the enemy of attraction. I mean, think about it. Predictability, safety, and constant agreement, it all creates a friendly, totally platonic vibe. Attraction, on the other hand, it thrives on emotional stimulation, that push and pull, the challenge, a little bit of uncertainty. If your main goal is always to make her comfortable, you just become boring.
And let's be crystal clear about this, because this is where a lot of guys get it wrong. This is not about being a jerk or a so-called bad boy. Not at all. It's about being a man who has his own strong internal frame, his own life, his own opinions, his own standards that don't just crumble the second a pretty woman walks into the room.
So that's the theory, but how do you actually apply it? This next section gives us some practical steps for rewiring those subconscious actions.
Now, this right here is a massive paradigm shift. Most guys think they need to add more stuff, more compliments, more attention, more of their time. The source argues for the exact opposite. Real attraction grows when you subtract. You subtract your predictability, your neediness, your constant availability. It's the empty space you create that actually pulls her in.
Just look at the difference in the signals being sent here. One guy is basically putting on a performance for her. The other guy is just expressing himself. One communicates neediness and low value. The other communicates self-sufficiency and high value. According to the source, it can be the same interaction, but the underlying messages are worlds apart, and women are absolute experts at reading them.
So if you want to start changing this immediately, our source offers a really practical exercise, the texting filter. Before you hit send on a text, just run it through these steps. Is your main goal to get a specific reaction out of her? If the answer is yes, you're performing. Delete it. But does the message genuinely amuse you? If yes, you're being authentic. Send it. This simple little shift can change the entire dynamic.
But here's a critical warning. You can't just adopt a few new lines or tactics and expect it to work. This has to be a genuine internal shift. Let's look at why.
You just can't pretend to be a high-value man who isn't needy. The source is so clear on this point. It says women have this almost supernatural ability to detect when something's off. They can literally sense when your outward behavior doesn't match how you feel on the inside. You have to truly embody this mindset, not just act it out.
So how do you become it? Well, you build a life where this mindset is just the natural byproduct. When your life is genuinely full of goals you're chasing, hobbies you love, and passions that you care about, you just naturally become less needy. You're not playing hard to get, you actually are hard to get because you're busy with your own fulfilling life.
And the source uses a perfect metaphor for this. If you're looking for a woman to be your whole Sunday, to complete you, that is way too much pressure to put on anyone. But if your life is already a complete, delicious Sunday all on its own, and she's just the cherry on top, now that is an attractive, healthy dynamic, where you don't need her, you simply want her.
Ultimately, after you understand all of this, the source frames it as a conscious and deliberate choice that you and only you have to make.
And this brings us to the final, and maybe the most powerful shift in thinking. Stop approaching interactions with the goal of getting her approval. Instead, approach them as a selection process. You are the one with standards, and you are simply seeing if she meets them. This single change reframes the entire game from a position of self-respect and power. So it all kind of boils down to this, doesn't it? Are you going to stay with the familiar, comfortable programming that you already know isn't working, or are you willing to step into the discomfort that is absolutely necessary for real growth and change?
And finally, the source leaves us with the most direct question of all. You know what you've been doing isn't working. You now know why it's failing. So the only question left is, when are you going to take action and align your behavior with this new understanding? The rest, as they say, is up to you.